Hi everybody, welcome to Ed Rock Camp. This particular course is going to be called Creating Containers in ActivInspire. Creating containers is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for the kids if you want to do something a little bit different and have a little bit of a different lesson. A little bit about myself. My name is Amy Geibel. I am a high school math teacher at Slippery Rock Area High School. I've taught for approximately 25 years. I'm about to start my 26th. And I teach math. I teach regular stats, AP stats, and I also teach college algebra, at least this year. You never know from year to year, so always be prepared is the best thing I can tell you. I am in no way, shape, or form an expert on ActivInspire, the software. I just made a promise to myself that when I got a Promethean board, I wasn't going to be lazy about it, and I took the time to learn the software. I know that a lot of people like to use PowerPoint, which is awesome. It's a great tool for being able to utilize the Promethean board. But boy, I got to tell you, ActivInspire has just so much more. It's souped up. It's basically PowerPoint, but it's like PowerPoint on steroids. There's so much more that you can do with the ActivInspire. And today I'd like to share a couple of those things with you today. My main focus is going to be containers, but I will go ahead and share some other things as well. If you need to contact me, my email address information is there. You can feel free to reach out. One thing that I do like to share is how to go ahead and create a background. There's two ways that I can tell you to create a background. The easiest way is to click on that little paint can. Pick a color that you like. I don't like to pick an obnoxious color, just something subtle, and fill it that way. Another way that you can do that is you can go to this little feature right here, which is the background feature, resource browser. It shows you all of your different resources. I clicked on backgrounds, and some of the backgrounds that actually come with it look something similar to that. Of course, if you're going to use that background, you want to make sure that you maybe change the color of your font, because you want to make sure that the kids can see it. So you can see just by doing something simple like that, it became a lot more clear. And again, if you don't like to do the background feature, then you can certainly feel free to do the paint can. Now, if you're wondering how this appeared on my toolbox, if you do go over to View, which is at the top of the screen, go ahead and click on Customize. You can see a lot of different features that you can go ahead and put onto your toolbox. I basically do the ones that I use the most on my toolbox, but you can feel free to do this however you might want to. So let's say that I want to do export page. I'm going to go ahead and add that, and you can see that it immediately popped up over here, which it wasn't there before. Now, after a while, if you decide you don't like that, then you can click on export page and remove it. Now you can see that it's gone again. So I do like to use that quite frequently. Another feature that I like to use quite frequently is the revealer. It just blackens your screen, and you can go ahead and take it one step at a time, because you always have those kids who, if you reveal a whole entire screen, you know they're not listening to you. All they're doing is just copying down the information. So if you only like to do a little bit at a time, the reveal screen is a good thing to do. Not only can you pull it up and down, but you can also pull it left and right. I like to do that if I have one problem and then a second problem, because I'm a math teacher, so I like to just maybe reveal one at a time, just for those kids who might want to move a little bit quicker than what I want them to. Sometimes when they do that, of course, they miss out on something good. All right, so the main idea for today is all about containers. What in the world is a container? A container is a really, really fun way for you to be able to involve your students in a classroom setting. It's kind of like matching, let's say. So if I'm an elementary school teacher and I just taught the difference between evens and odds, you might create an even container and an odd container, put a whole bunch of numbers, and then have the kids come up and place the numbers into the appropriate container. And you can definitely program it to do a reward sound, or if it's not correct, then you can go ahead and kick it straight back, so that way the student knows that they got it wrong. I like to actually play a little game in my classroom. It's called Pass the Pen. What I'll do is I'll hand the pen off to a student, and usually we do this with a math problem that's multi-step. First student will come up and do one step and explain it. Then they get to pass the pen to whomever they choose. Then the second student comes up and they can go ahead and do the next step. You could do something like that with this, in the regard that the first student comes up, puts something in the appropriate container, passes the pen, and so on and so forth. And I always tell the kids you can't repeat, so you can't pass the pen to somebody who's already gone, because kids like coming up to the board and using the pen. Another example for containers might be if you're a science teacher, maybe you just taught exoskeletons versus a regular skeleton, endoskeleton. So maybe create that. A social studies teacher, Republican versus Democrat presidents, and you can put their names or you can put their pictures at the bottom of the page. So I thought what we could do for this one was we could go ahead and just do a nice little money challenge to see if we know who is on money. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out right here. And I'm going to go to my text feature so that I can start to type in some of these names. I don't want them to be yellow, so I am going to go ahead and click on black. And the first one that I'll type in, Salmon P. Chase. Some of us probably don't even know who that is. He's just a politician who was pretty instrumental, but never made it to presidency. So there's Benjamin Franklin. And of course, we can always move these as we're finishing them, so that way they can be evenly spaced and we can make sure that we see them. Ulysses S. Grant is another president that's on this page. Another president is Grover Cleveland. Another one that I have here is Andrew Jackson. And we can go to Alexander Hamilton after that. And then, of course, I do want to move that a little bit because I don't want it to overlap. The next one that you see, or the next one that I'm going to type in, is William McKinley. Oops, spelled that wrong, didn't I? Next one that I see on my page is Abraham Lincoln. Thomas Jefferson. And last but not least, I got my good old George Washington. All right, so once you have all of those names, and notice something about that, I did each name separately. I made one separate text box for each one of those names, and that's really important because if you just make a list, then you're not going to be able to drag a particular name. So the first thing that we're going to do now is we're actually ready to go ahead and make a container. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the pointer tool again, because if you click and left it on text, it would try to put a text box right here. So I'm going to click on George Washington dollar bill, and you're going to see all the little dots that surround him, and you're also going to see a nice little menu. This one is an object edit menu. It looks like a little file. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to bring up what's called a property browser. About 2/5 of the way down, you can see container. So let's go ahead and turn this into a container. First thing, what can it contain? Well, it can contain nothing, but why would we create a container that contained nothing? Anything is very broad in general, so I don't recommend that you use that. A specific object, which is what I think would be best here, or keywords. So I'm going to go with specific object. The next one down is what object do you want it to contain? Well, I want it to contain the text that says George Washington. So notice that it has all the images that I've used and all the text. I know George Washington was the last one, and we can even see it there, and I'm going to hit OK. The next thing that it says, contain rule. Do you want to completely contain this, or do you want to match the centers? Well, if you match the centers, that's kind of challenging for some students because their centers have to actually match. Completely contained is what I typically use, but I gotta tell you, they're not kidding when they say completely contained. If the word George Washington is longer than the actual picture or container itself, then it won't work. It has to be completely contained within the dollar bill. If you would like to program a reward sound, you can. I would like to do that, so I'm gonna hit true. And then I'm gonna click on these little dots, and it takes me to sounds. And I can click on any one of these sounds. I'm just going to click on chime. Go ahead and hit open. And that's all. You have just created your first container. Now, we do have to go ahead and do the other part. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on George Washington. Notice the word container comes up here as well. And the only thing that you do, it's going to contain nothing because it's not a container, it's a containee. So all these things will be whited out, but notice the last one, return if not contained. We want to make that true. So I will go ahead and hit on true. All right, now that that's all ready, notice that I can take George Washington, drag him up to the dollar bill, and he will hopefully stay in the dollar bill, and I get a reward sound, which is great. So I'm going to drag George Washington back because that's nice and fine and dandy. Let's do the next one, Thomas Jefferson. Notice that it already kind of has the container here set up for you, and it goes with the same thing that we did last time. So specific object, and the object that we want to find this time is the word Thomas Jefferson because he is on a $2 bill. Completely contained. Let's go ahead and make a sound. What sound do we want? This time we'll go with the boing sound. So go ahead and do that. And now let's go ahead and click on Thomas Jefferson. And the only thing that we have to do for him is just return if he's not contained. So far, do you see how much faster that was now that we have a nice little system going? So now I can take Thomas Jefferson and put him in there, and we get a nice little reward sound. If I were to take Thomas Jefferson and try to put him with George Washington, he should be returned. Somehow he's not being returned. So let me go ahead and click. Okay, go ahead and put Thomas Jefferson back. Let's see here. Put Thomas Jefferson back. There we go. So if I were to take George Washington and put him on Thomas Jefferson, he's put back, and hopefully, yeah, see, he would be put back too. It was stuck in a loop. That's why it didn't do it. All right, let's go ahead and repeat this now with our next one, Abraham Lincoln. I bet you could write the book for me. Container, can contain a specific object. Which one? Let's go ahead and look for the text that says Abraham Lincoln. I hit OK. Completely contained. Give me a sound. This time I did a ding-dong sound. So now let me go ahead and go to the Abraham Lincoln and make sure that he gets returned if he's not matched up properly. So it's a pretty simple process. Let's just test it out to make sure that Abraham Lincoln is okay. You can see that it is a little bit touchy. There we go. Got it to stick. And there's a ding-dong that goes along with that. So I will go ahead and take Abraham Lincoln back. We'll go ahead and do another one. Again, I'm sure at this point you could probably write the book for me, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. So I will go to container, specific object. This time around, we're looking for Alexander Hamilton. So I'll keep scrolling here until I find Alexander Hamilton. So I think he's up a little bit further. There's Andrew Jackson. Okay, there's Hamilton. And completely contained, it's true, the sound. I picked an explosion for that one. I will go ahead and click on Alexander Hamilton and make sure that I put true for return if not contained. So now when I take Alexander Hamilton, he's all oh, it didn't work. And you're thinking to yourself, why didn't that work? Well, remember folks, this has to be completely contained. And if you look at the word, it's bigger than the picture. So I do need to take that picture and click it and drag it out a little bit so that picture is a little bit longer so Alexander Hamilton can actually fit inside that whole entire picture. And it still might not be big enough, so let me go ahead and make that just a little bit bigger. There we go. And now I should have an explosion sound that pops up, and I'm sure that it will when we go ahead and refresh and just do everything. I'm going to save this because I like to save every now and again. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with Andrew Jackson. So I'm going to click on that, go to container, specific object. Let's find the Andrew Jackson text. And there he is. Hit OK for that one. Make sure that it's completely contained. Go ahead, and now my reward sound, I want that to be true. So I'm going to click on this, and this time let's just do a ding dong. That's kind of simple. And hit OK. Let's go to Andrew Jackson and go ahead and turn him into return if it's not proper. And at this point, now we should be able to take Andrew Jackson and have him stick, and the ding dong comes up as a reward sound. You can do animal noises, you can do all kinds of things. Notice if I take Andrew Jackson and put him back, well, now he's not going to go back because he's stuck in a loop. So let me just undo those actions and put him back. If I tried to put Andrew Jackson in Alexander Hamilton's spot, then he would be kicked back. Let's just finish these out because I bet you're just itching to know who these last couple of people are. I know this seems like it takes a while to go ahead and do, but honestly, once you have this programmed, you're set for as long as you want to use this. So let me go ahead and turn this one into a container. Now I'm looking for Grant, so that's Ben Franklin. So there's Ulysses S. Grant. I'm going to hit OK. Completely contained. I want a sound. This time I have a beam. And now let me go ahead and click on Ulysses S. Grant and return him if he is not contained. So let me take Grant, click off of there, take Grant, go ahead and put him over here. You got a nice little beam. Life is good. All right, so far so good. Next one, I'm sure we know this guy. So let's go ahead and contain a specific object. Again, look for container. This time we're looking for our buddy Ben Franklin. So there he is. Completely contained, true. This time I have another Boeing. Let's go ahead and go to Ben Franklin and return him if he is miscontained. So just to check him out, make sure that he's okay and make sure that everything is working. You can go ahead and put him in there. Again, sometimes it's a little bit sensitive and I'm not sure why he's not going in there. So let me just look. Let me look at this one. Yeah, we're good. So let's see. Text 44 was Benjamin Franklin. So we're good to go. Okay. So I'm not sure why he's not sticking in there for some reason. Sometimes it gets a little bit, there we go. And we got your Boeing and we're good to go. So again, you can see that it's a little bit temperamental at times. This guy, let's go ahead and turn him into a container, specific object. Now we're looking for William McKinley. So let's go about halfway down. There's Grover Cleveland. McKinley's probably right there. And completely contained. I do want a sound to accompany him. So I'll find a sound this time around. Let's go for some magic and see what happens with the magic. William McKinley, make sure that he's returned. Again, you can see how it starts to go pretty darn quick. This next guy, turn him into a container. This one would be Grover Cleveland, so let's find him. There it is, hit OK. Completely contained, a sound. I sound like a broken record. Let's go ahead and click on Grover Cleveland, make sure that he is returned if he is not contained. And then the very last guy on the $10,000 bill. Wouldn't you love to have a $10,000 bill in your pocket right now? I wish I could give each one of you who's watching this a $10,000 bill. So completely contained. And I got a ding dong program for that one. Let me go to Salmon P. Chase and return him if he is not contained properly. So now that they're all done, I'm just going to go ahead and save them. And now you can play pass the pen with your students. Get rid of this so that they can see the full screen and play pass the pen. So you pass the pen to Johnny. Johnny comes up and says, okay, I know Abraham Lincoln is right there. Great. Good job. Johnny, pass the pen to somebody. So Johnny gives the pen to his friend Susie. Susie says, let's see, I think this is Thomas Jefferson. Nope, it's not, because it returns it. Okay, Susie, try again. Okay, well, I think that's Thomas Jefferson. You got it. Good job. And then Susie passes the pen, and as the choices limit, then, of course, the kids have fewer and fewer choices to deal with. So that's how to create a container, and notice that each container only has one choice. What if you wanted to do something else, though, where you had a container, or maybe you wanted that container to have a couple of choices? So let's go there to the next page. Notice that it's blank. I think in this case, I'm just going to make it clouds because that's a little bit easy on the eyes. I don't like bright white, especially in a darker room. It just kind of hurts the kids' eyes. And I do ask the kids periodically if there's a specific color. Sometimes you encounter a student who is colorblind. So if that's the case, then there are certain colors that they may not be able to see. So I do always give them the opportunity to tell me if in fact they can't see. All right, so we're going to make a container this time, and it's going to be completely different. I'm going to start by choosing a shape, and the shape that I'm going to choose is a simple box. And I'm actually going to go ahead and create a first box, And then I'm going to go ahead and create a second box, pretty much try to make it the same size. If you want it exactly the same, then you can copy and paste one box right next to the other, and then you get them exactly the same. I don't really like the way those boxes look. I want to change them, so I'll click on them, and I will go back to the property browser. First thing that you can see is the outline. For some reason, it's really thick, so I'm going to change that to about 8. Maybe you don't even want an outline. Maybe you just want to make it as the same exact color as anything else, and you could do that. This one, I'm actually going to change it and make it red, and I'm going to make the whole thing red. Now, there are definitely different things that you can do with these boxes. You can see that they are a little bit different. If you wanted to, you could definitely go for a gradient fill. You could go for different edges on these. Let's say you wanted to go square edges, or if you wanted to go round. You know, there's just a lot of different things that you could do. But where I'm going to go with this, and I really would prefer these boxes be the same size because I don't want to make one to be any better than the other. So what I'm going to do with my text box is I'm going to go for Democrat, and on this side I'm going to go ahead and go for Republican. Oops, there we go. All right, down below I'm just going to go ahead and make this fast. I'm going to pick a couple of Democrats and Republicans. So we're going to go for Barack Obama as one of the Democrats. We'll go for Donald Trump as one of my Republicans. We'll go ahead and pick another Republican, Ronald Reagan. And we'll go ahead and go for another, what do I need? Another Democrat. So let's go for Bill Clinton. There we go. All right, so once you have those on there, and you could put those all over the page, you could bring in pictures from Google Images, just really anything you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be words. So now that I have those, let's go ahead and turn Democrat into a container. But now I want it to contain two things, not just a specific object. So I am going to go down to container, and instead of specific object, I'm going to do keywords. Right below that, it says contain words, so I'm going to click on the 3 little dots. I'm going to add a word, and that word is going to be Democrat. And I'm just going to do demo because I'm too lazy to type out the whole entire word Democrat. Go ahead and hit enter. And now Democrat or demo is a key word for this one. Completely contain. I want a reward sound for that. And now I'm just going to go ahead and pick, oh, what am I going to pick? Let's pick some magic on that one again, and we should be good to go. All right, now this time around, now that this is created, let's go ahead and do the Republican side. So can contain keywords, and go down to where it says contain words. I'm going to add a word, and this one's going to be repub, R-E-P. I'm just going to keep it simple, so that way it's easy for me to go ahead and remember. I want it to be completely contained. I am going to do a sound. So this time around, let me just go ahead and do, I don't know, how about a horn? See, and you could even do an elephant and a donkey, a braying donkey if you wanted to. If you had those sounds on your computer, you could do that. All right, now this time we have to do two things with a contain ease, if you will. I'm going to click on Barack Obama. And the first thing that we're going to do is make sure that we click true for return if not contained. And now I have to go up to the top where it says identification. Keywords, add, and if you remember the keyword that we used, it was demo for Democrat. Notice it's all lowercase. However I made that the first time, I have to do the same exact thing the second time. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to do the same thing for Donald Trump. Keywords, if you remember, we did Republican, R-E-P. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that one. And then let's remember to return if not contained. So we can go ahead and hit true. Go to Ronald Reagan. Let's go ahead and do return if not contained. And then let's go up to identification. Add a keyword onto that one. Again, it's Republican, R-E-P. Hit OK. And last but not least, Bill Clinton. Let's go to add a keyword. That keyword is demo. Go ahead and hit OK with that one. And then make sure again that that one gets returned if it's not contained. So now that all of these are here, I'm just going to go ahead and save this so I don't lose it. I'm going to take Barack Obama, Democrat. Yay. Take Donald Trump. Nope, not a Democrat. Ronald Reagan, Democrat. There you go. Horn, toot, toot. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. See? Very simple. A lot of fun for the kids. It's just a great way for you to go ahead and be able to put together a nice little lesson that really drives your point home, but also gets the kids out of their seats. Like I said, a lot of times they're sitting there, they're bored. Kids love to use the board. I have kids ask me, and I teach high school kids. They ask me all the time, can we write on the board? Can we do something? So don't feel like you have to be in control of the board the whole entire time. It's okay to let the kids be in control of the board. All right, so that's basically it for containers. I will say that if you are interested in credit for this class, there is a class code that you need to submit. That class code for this particular course is AG816. Again, that is AG816. So hopefully you will be able to pick that up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to another feature. And the other feature that we're going to use here is how to create some mathematical symbols and equations. Elementary school teachers, I know a lot of times you use fractions. High school teachers, we use all kinds of crazy math symbols. Middle school teachers, we use all kinds of crazy symbols. So how in the world can we do this? Well, there is a feature, and I have a shortcut here on my menu, but if not, you can always go to Tools and go ahead and hit More Tools and keep looking until you find that actual math equation editor. So here, right here, I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And when I do, notice it didn't look like anything happened, but notice my cursor has changed into the same symbol as was over there. When I do click, it's going to bring up a nice little menu for me, and that menu is going to be my equation editor. So let's suppose we're teaching the quadratic formula. So x equals, now I need a fraction. So I'm going to click, find the fraction. It's the opposite of b. I need a plus or minus. So I will go ahead to the drop down menu there, plus or minus. Now I need a square root. So I will find my square root. And then I need a b squared. So notice that's something that's superscripted. So I'm going to go ahead and type in b, use my arrow key, squared. Use my arrow key one more time to get out of the squared, and then minus 4ac. That way it's all still underneath the actual square root symbol, and that's all divided by 2a. Once I hit OK, it's going to put that right on the screen. I'm going to change back to my pointer, and I want to show you we can make that sucker big so that way the kids can see it, especially if you want to drive a point home. If I click on it and say I want it to be yellow, there it is, it's yellow. If I want it to be another color, then you got it. So now that we know how to do that, let me show you something else. If you were teaching and you didn't want the kids to work ahead of you, you could do the quadratic formula as a vocabulary word, and then you can program this to when you hit that word, this will pop up. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to click on quadratic formula, and I'm going to go to this object browser here, object edit menu. But instead of doing property browser, now we're going to do some action. So I'm going to go ahead and click on action browser. And when it comes up, you can see that there are a whole lot of things that you can do for an action browser, a whole lot of things. We're going to focus on one of them. Notice that the action browser is assimilated with a top, because obviously a top provides you with some action. What we want to find is we want to find the word hidden, and luckily this is in alphabetical order for us, so you can see the word hidden right there. Once I click that, it's going to say, all right, what's my target? So I'm going to click on the three little dots next to the target, and I want my equation as the target. Go ahead and hit OK. One thing that you do need to make sure that you do is hit apply the changes, because if you don't apply the changes, then it's not going to stick. Now watch what happens when I hit quadratic formula. Did you see when I got close to it, I got a nice little blue button telling me that that is now a hot button. And there's an action that goes along with that. So when I click the quadratic formula, when I'm creating, that's how I would save it. So I come to this page and it says quadratic formula. And if you have to teach something 6 or 7 times in a day, you don't want to have to keep writing it over and over and over again. So you just do quadratic formula, click on it, and then you give the kids the opportunity to go ahead and write that down. It's a nice feature, especially for definitions. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to create a hot button is you can actually cover this up and reveal it. What do I mean by that? Well, let me get rid of this feature. See how it says remove existing? So I have to click over here, this little blue thing up in the corner. It's in design, it's not in design mode. I have to click it to orange so that we are in actual design mode. Now I can click on this and say, hey, remove the existing changes. And it's no longer going to be a hot button. So notice when I click on it, it's not going to disappear anymore. So what you might decide to do is make this a little bit smaller. Quadratic formula, just like that. And you might decide to just go ahead and use a rectangle to cover this up. And again, we've talked about before how to change this if you just go to property browser, which you're already on the browser. So if you just click the paper, that's the property browser. And maybe you just want to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. And maybe you decide, you know what, I think I want to make this purple this time around. Okay, great. So on and so forth. If you go up to the very top where it says appearance, if you notice, this program has layers to it. And when you're creating stuff, everything is on the middle layer. So what I'm going to do is take that box and put that box on the top layer. Hopefully you can see that I've done that there. Why would I want to do that? Because when I teach, sometimes it's more fun to hit this magic eraser. Again, got that from customizing my toolbox. And then if I take it over here and just drag my pen across, it's going to erase everything for me, which is kind of a nice feature to have. Maybe not necessarily for a formula, but I know that if you have, let's say I'm talking about the discriminant, and that has 3 cases. So sometimes it's nice just to reveal one case at a time, or maybe even with the quadratic formula, maybe you just decide, you know what, I only want to discuss the top first, the top of the fraction. And so we reveal the top of the fraction, and then you can go ahead and address the bottom of the fraction. And that's a nice little feature to help to be able to maybe just keep the kids engaged a little bit and have it so that they're not just being little robots and copying everything down, and they actually pay attention because you have the control to go ahead and reveal things in the order that you need to reveal things. So that was something that was kind of neat as well. Let me show you the hidden thing another time, just so that you can get the hang of it a little bit better. Suppose that we were going to go ahead and type in a vocabulary word, irrational number, and then let me do a separate text box for a rational number. And then let me go ahead and put the definition by it. This is a decimal that does not repeat or terminate. And if you want, you can always make this text box a little bit shorter and it sets it for you. This one is a decimal that terminates, oops, let me go back to the end of that, that terminates or repeats. So let me go ahead and organize this a little bit because I like for things to be right next to one another. Maybe you want to make this a different color so that it stands out a little bit better. Maybe I'll make this one blue and maybe I'll make this one, I don't know, red, or maybe another color. Maybe this one will be dark blue, something like that. And you can just see that they're different colors. If I click on irrational number, go to the action browser, go to hidden. My target is that definition. Make sure it's the right one. Hit OK, hit apply changes. Go to rational number, click on that, click hidden again. My target this time is the last text, that last definition that I wrote, and you can go ahead and apply the changes. And now, when I actually save this, I'm going to save it blank. when I'm talking to the students and I say, all right, a rational number, I can just click on it. Like I said, if you're teaching this 6 times a day, writing that definition 6 times a day can get a little bit cumbersome. So it's nice to be able to just go ahead and do the hidden feature rather than the actual writing it down. And then from there, you can take your pen and give examples of some of your rational numbers. Pi, the square root of 3, the square root of 5, rational numbers, -2, 3/4, 0.25, something along those lines. So you can see that it's a nice little feature that really helps me to be able to make the lesson just a little bit more intriguing, help that student who just puts themselves on robot mode instead of listening to you and tries to work ahead. There are so many things that you can do. Suppose that you even wanted to, in this particular case, suppose that you wanted to bring up a calculator. Maybe you were going to add some numbers together on this page. So I'm going to make a hot button here. I'm just going to create a nice little circle. And again, that is very thick, that border. So I'm going to go back to my property browser. That was another way to do it. And I'm going to change that to maybe about a 9, something along those lines. And maybe I'll just make this, I don't know, burgundy color. And then maybe I won't even outline it, just make everything a burgundy color. So now when I click on this and go to Action Browser, find the calculator, because maybe you need a calculator to help you to be able to do this. So I'll hit Calculator, Apply Changes. And now you can see when I bring that up, there's my calculator, and I can just go ahead and calculate the things that I need. It's just a simple calculator. Don't get your hopes up that it's a really fancy schmancy calculator by any sense of the word. It's just a nice way to go ahead and add some things into your PowerPoint presentation. If you notice too, a Jeopardy game uses a lot of these hot buttons, a lot of these actions, because when you click on something, it takes you to another page. You can find a lot of these features and programs that are already made for you. Teachers are willing to share them, so you can feel free to go ahead and go there. Here's another cool one that you can go ahead and utilize. So let me just pick a shape. And it doesn't even have to be a shape if you don't want it to be. I'm just going to pick a triangle here. And I'm even just going to leave it, but look at dice roller. So apply the changes, and when I go ahead and click on this, it's going to bring up my die and go ahead and roll it again. Let's say that you were teaching a stats lesson and you were trying to talk about probabilities. So there you go. And it'll just keep rolling the dice, and the kids can keep track of that. You can put this into a output into a flip chart. You know, the speed of the dice roll, make them faster, make them slower. Kind of really a neat little function that you can use. I really don't know why there's a random 6 there. So let's just review the things that we've done today. The first thing that we did was we created this fun little board with money so that we would know exactly who is on each bill. And for some reason that's not sticking, so we'll go with one that we know works. You can see the sounds come up. You don't have to do sounds. If you're wondering if there's a sound if they get it wrong, there is not. So we're not going to boo you if you get something incorrect, which is a good thing, because the kids usually ask, oh my goodness, is this going to make a boo noise or a wah wah if you get something wrong? And it doesn't. So again, you can see, have the kids come up to the board a little bit at a time and match things up. We tried it again with putting more than one item into a container. And that one, we just use keywords and try to keep it simple. If you keep it simple, it's going to be easy for you to keep track of and easy for you to work. On this page, we use the equation editor. And I got to tell you, even if you're teaching a higher level math, you know, a lot of times it's hard to find stat symbols, sigma, mu. Everything that you need is there. Even for science, if you were doing an equation where you needed the sum of, or any kind of omega or alpha or anything like that, you can find it in there. Even doing matrices, there's a good way to go ahead and put together some matrices. X bar, p hat, all kinds of different symbols that you can find. Really, if it's anything that pertains to math, you should be able to find it in this section. We also talked about how to hide something and put it on a different layer. Remember that we just go ahead and create a cover for that, and then we go to our property browser, and where it says appearance, let's just make sure that that's on the top. You could put it on the bottom too if you wanted to, and if you did put that one on the bottom, this one, we could put it on the bottom, you would be able to see that the formula is on top of that, and we could actually erase the formula if we wanted to. But I like the idea of that being on the top a little bit better, because then it covers it up and we can go from there, which is a good thing. Also, we talked about how to hide things. So if I were to go ahead and create definitions or even pictures or graphs, a lot of times when I teach about parabolas, I will go ahead and do parabola, the definition, then I'll create this as a hot button and click on that, and it'll bring up a graph of a parabola or a third degree or a fourth degree equation or inequality. I hope that this helps you. I hope that you learned a few things about being able to use some of the more fun features on ActivInspire. My best piece of advice that I could give you is play with this. Just play around with it and see all the different fun things that you can actually do. I know the first time you do something, it's going to take a while for you to plot it out, but you have it forever. As long as you save your work, you should have it forever. I thank you for your attention. Again, if you feel like you wanted to contact me in any way, shape, or form, there is my email address. I would be more than happy to answer questions. And I will just reiterate the fact that on YouTube, there are a lot of different angles that you can find. All you have to do is just type in, how do I do a container on ActivInspire, or ActivInspire containers? And you're going to find several, because a lot of people are incredibly helpful. You're going to find several videos that come up, and they're usually very good videos because they're put together by teachers. And let's face facts, that's what we do, folks. We teach. So enjoy. I thank you for your attention. If I can help you, please reach out. Thank you, and have a lovely afternoon.